Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. We are here in this place.
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Vast of Night. Took me a second to remember.
The Vast of Night.
Yeah. It's a movie.
It is. It's a film. We wanted to make that clear, that Dave and I didn't just go outside and stare up into the void for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Which is entirely possible.
Yeah, that's something separate that we do.
What's going on, Everett?
718 here at WOTW. We got a sound we'd like to play that seems to be bouncing around the valley tonight.
Yes, I have a story that might be helpful.
I can tell you what's going on.
The sound we heard out in the desert. It was coming from thousands of feet higher than anything could fly.
They've come here before. They've liked this place. They always have.
How you doing, Tom? How's your peaches?
Oh, man. So I'm recording this looking out of my back door. It's a sliding glass door at this peach tree that we just realized we had.
Okay.
So we moved in like 2 months ago, and it was just this tree that was in the backyard. I was like, okay, that's a nice tree. And now it's become clear that it's a peach tree because it's bearing fruit.
You're living that song by Presidents of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Except there are these fucking dickhead birds just swooping in, eating all the fruit right in front of me, like right in front of my face. I'm just sitting here watching them do it. There's nothing I can do about it.
They're just pissing all over your life.
Fucking shithead birds. They're probably shitting all over the fruit and pissing everywhere.
Yeah, those are your peaches.
Just chirping at me, looking me dead in my face.
Dickhead birds.
I know.
Something must be done.
I know. I don't know what to
do.
do.
Are you going to take that?
I don't know. I don't have any weapons.
Yeah. Maybe you could electrify the tree.
That's not a bad idea. I could I could throw a big net over it. And run a current through that net.
Yeah. You could hire someone to hit at them with sticks.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I could hire a bird assassin.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's anybody listening who needs bird assassin work, any bird assassins.
If there are any cats
fans of the
listening.
Podcast. Yeah, that's that's what those
cats
are.
Listening.
Oh, get a cat. Get a bunch of cats.
Yeah. I won't call it adoption. Like I'll walk into like the animal shelter and be like, I need to hire some cats.
Yeah.
So maybe
I would one bird assassin, please.
Maybe that way they'll let me take home like 7.
Uh-huh.
I'm not adopting them. I need to hire them.
Right. And you pay them in precious jewels.
Yeah, and delicious bird flesh.
Sure. Yeah, that too. Oh, you're a cat job creator is what you are.
Yeah, that's what it's you know what? That's how capitalism works.
Yeah.
First you get the money, then you get the cats, then you get the peaches.
Yep, exactly. That's the order.
Yeah, that's the direction that prosperity flows.
Mm-hmm. That's what our founding fathers intended.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's all built on cats, on hiring cats.
And peach currency.
Mm-hmm.
Our rights to peaches.
Yeah, it's a little known fact. There were entire regiments of cats that they used in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, when they talked about like redcoats, they're talking about robins. Mm-hmm. They weren't talking about the British. It was all birds.
Yeah, it was just we were facing down a tyrannical bird force.
Yeah. Yeah, little known fact about the founding of this country. It's all bird-based.
Yeah, they were taxing all of our peaches without representation.
Right.
You know, all the tea in the Boston Tea Party? It's all peach-flavored.
Uh-huh.
It's all peach tea.
Peach tea? Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about?
We're talking about The Vast of Night.
Oh yeah, so this is we talked about this on Movies That Deserve More Hype. This is available on Amazon Prime, I believe. You don't have to pay for it if you have Prime.
Yeah, it's included with Prime.
This is an indie sci-fi film that ran on film festivals for a little bit, got a lot of good reviews, was worth checking out. So Tom, what did you think of this film?
I liked it. I think there's some problems with it, but overall I enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to seeing what these filmmakers and these actors, because I really enjoyed the two lead actors, do after this film.
Same. This exact same. This movie felt like a really good screen test at times.
Yes. Because
I don't know if you share this opinion. The one fault I had with the movie is that well, no, actually, I don't know if this is true. It felt like there wasn't enough movie.
Yes.
It's a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
But I did like a lot of the, like, them just talking to people on the radio and hearing stories.
It's the movie is entirely a series of monologues.
Yes, and I didn't mind that. It was more like, I almost thought the ending needed to commit to that more and show less. Spoilers, by the way.
It does. Yeah, it does show. Yeah, I mean, it shows us the spaceships, but
yeah, and I almost think if they were going to keep to that, they should have embraced it. But it felt like they had a really cool idea. It's like the movie Monsters, where it's like you watch it and you're like, actually, I think Vast of Night is more rewatchable than Monsters, but Monsters also felt like, oh, this is a director making a name for himself.
Yeah.
More than anything, like just being like, look at what I can do.
Yeah, and this movie feels like that.
Yeah. But I really I loved the opening. I loved all the conversations. For people who are watching this having not seen it, it's about kids, teenagers in like the 50s in a small town in, I'm guessing, like Nevada area.
New Mexico. Cayuga, New Mexico.
Okay. And it's the girl is a switchboard operator. The guy runs the local radio station, and they come upon a strange radio signal, and they start investigating it, and they rebroadcast it and ask people like, have you heard this before? And they start getting stories from people who talk about the people in the sky and like military service and this very Roswell-esque stories of they've heard this when it came to like working for the military and when there was like reports of a presence in the sky. And this one old woman talks about losing her child.
Yeah, she's way older though. So like she tells a story about because it takes place in like 1950.
Yeah.
So she's was a kid in like the 1880s, 1890s.
Right.
So she's telling a story about how a train kind of rolled to a stop right outside of town and everybody on board was missing. And then a few days later, a woman who had jumped off the train comes stumbling into town, all disoriented. And this family sort of nurses her back to health a little bit. And then one night she just disappears and they never saw her again.
Right.
And that leads into the story about her. She has a son who speaks this weird language in his sleep, and then one night when he was like 9, he also disappears.
Yes, and the creepiest part is she speaks she writes down and speaks the language back to her son, and her son goes into a trance, and like looks up with his eyes closed, which pays off, I think, really well. I
agree.
Yeah, they later play the tape back to people they're driving in a car with, and she starts speaking the language in the tape, and the driver and the passenger in the front do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's really this movie. The movie's not scary, and it's really
creepy.
It's creepy in a couple of spots, and that was definitely one of the creepiest spots.
We talked about this, I think, off podcast about that movie The Fourth Kind, and like the reason I really liked the movie The Fourth Kind, which is such a weird, like a random ass movie.
It's a random movie to like, and it's not a very good movie, but there are a couple of scenes that are creepy as shit in that movie.
And I also feel this about another random movie that's not very good, The Forgotten, with Julianne Moore and McNulty. And there's one called like Dark Skies that's also not very good. But they all share one thing that I think more movies need to embrace, which is that aliens are scary.
Yeah.
We don't get enough of that unless they're like literal monsters. The X-Files, I think, tapped into that with me. One of the most like common images in my head when I think of the X-Files is when Mulder in Little Green Men is in the
radio. I almost said Radio Shack, but that's basically what it is.
Yeah, it's a shack for a radio that he goes to
equipment.
With no plan of getting out. But that's a different podcast.
That's a different show.
Yeah, but he hears like the recording start, and like it plays back something he says, like in this weird distorted voice, and then like the lock just like unlocks on its own. And it's the same with Samantha's abduction in that, and it's presented as like creepy, like they're demons.
They're basically demons,
because what they're doing is so beyond our comprehension that it comes off like dark magic, and it's terrifying. And like The Forgotten does a thing where people are just randomly sucked into the sky. And it's so creepy how they do it. They're just standing there, and like you're falling, they suddenly just fall upwards, just go shoom, and it's just like Jesus.
I remember that was in the trailer.
Yeah, and it's a great technique, and you never see the aliens. Well, I think you see them at the end, but it's always just like dark clouds, and they're up there somewhere. Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan film, that's another one that does it.
Yeah,
probably the most successful.
Yeah.
And this does it as well, is that for most of the movie, it's like a presence that you just hear about. That's everybody's sort of like...
Yeah, it's just this weird transmission that you keep hearing.
Yeah, it's got that Contact vibe.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Signs. You remember the scene where the Culkin stands on the roof of the car with his radio, and it's
which Culkin is that?
I think it's Rory.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
where they use a Culkin antenna with the baby monitor. Yeah, that's also like there's something very creepy about that. About this thing that you can't see. It's just up there somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's watching you. And you don't know what it's doing. But it's clearly not good, because if it was good, it would probably come down and say hi.
Yeah.
It might be neutral.
They're clearly up to something.
Yeah, there's shifty aliens up there.
Fucking shifty. This fucking guy. These shifty aliens. Up there glorping to each other. We don't know what they're doing.
Just watching us.
We don't know what they got
themselves.
In store.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know what their plan is.
We have no idea what they're doing. We don't know if they're... I don't know. Maybe they'll... I don't know. We don't know if there's just a bunch of close-up magicians up there. I don't know. That'd be terrifying.
Oh, if they're just like, oh, God, you get abducted and you go up there and you're in a dark room and one of them approaches and they're like, you got like a $20 bill on you? I want to show you something real quick. and then they just start doing close-up magic. And you have to act like you're really impressed, but you don't want to tell them that, like, we have close-up magicians on Earth.
Yeah. I mean, this is not... I mean, it's just to blow your mind.
Yeah.
Does the levitation thing where he's just lifting himself up on his toes.
Right. That reminds me of the South Park with Jesus. Okay, turn around. Turn around.
Turn around.
Turn around. Oh, it's pretty great. But yeah, this the town is all at a basketball game. And so the idea is that most of the town is at this one game. It's a small town. Everybody knows each other. They do a really good job with that, because she's like the switchboard operator. She's just like calling random people, and everybody knows each other's names. There are no strangers. And so during this time, basically they hear this sound. They start getting people on the radio saying, "I know what it is." One person is like, "You have to come to my house and I'll tell you the story." They run into other people who are like, people are starting to see things, like there's spheres in the sky, and then they run into another couple. It's a lot of just running about. At one point, the girl's sister, the babysitter.
The babysitter, yeah.
Of the sister, they can't find, so she grabs her kid's sister, and they go out and they end up kind of on the side of the road when they're driving with this couple, and they play the voices, and the couple looks to the sky, and they go out, and then I guess I won't spoil the ending, except to say that it's, it shows a lot all of a sudden.
Yes, yeah.
And that was where, I mean, it didn't lose me, but that was where I was like, you could have done the same ending without
showing anything.
And
Just showing the aftermath.
Yes, I think it would have been much more effective.
Yeah, it would have been more in line with how the rest of the movie was. Yeah.
What did you think about the framing device? It starts on an old style TV, and they present it like it's a Twilight Zone-y
Yeah,
show.
It's a Twilight Zone stand-in called Paradox Theater, and they actually got a very good Rod Serling sound-alike to narrate it. So much so that I was, at first it fooled me. I was like, is this like an alternate take for the intro to Twilight Zone? I don't know. I liked it in the beginning when it's a slow push into the TV set in somebody's living room as it begins to play the movie. But then it would randomly cut to the back to the TV screen to show. I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, that's my thought as well, is that it reminds me, it makes me think of someone who's right out of film school and they're just sort of trying stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this film is a little bit of that. It's a little bit of let's try stuff. And most of the stuff they tried, I think, worked. Like that oneer. The
oneer that was the trailer.
Yeah. That oneer is fantastic.
It's pretty great. Yeah. And I mean, it's totally unnecessary.
I would say yes and no.
Actually, no, it's not totally unnecessary, because what we learn later when they talk to the old lady is she's like, they tend to show up when most of everybody in town is in one place.
Right. That's the idea, is that.
So it's zooming it goes from the switchboard all the way through the high school where everybody's at the basketball game, and then outside of the high school to the radio station. And it's showing us that the entire town is empty pretty much, except for these two.
Everything's very blue and dark and quiet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes from where the switchboard operator is and the radio host is, and they're communicating. So we get to see the vast of night. We get to see the emptiness and darkness, and then it gets to this one pocket of humanity. Mm-hmm. And it zooms through it, and we see everybody's there, and then it keeps going, and it's quiet again. Yeah, I think that's what it's there to establish, is sort of. It's not something deep. It's just establishing the mood of what we're seeing, the environment.
And the isolation of these two characters.
Yeah. And it's very good. They did a lot. I heard because this is very low budget. And the things I'll forgive it for is there's parts like just being very reliant on someone telling a story. At some points, the screen cuts to black and you just hear their voices.
Yeah, that was a choice.
Yeah, because they could have easily just filmed more. Yeah. But it's sort of like, it was part of me realizing they could have done this as a podcast. They could have done this
the way that it's set up.
Yeah.
Or, like a radio play.
Yeah.
It's set up a lot like a radio play, where you have one lady's on the one character's on the switchboard, another character's at a radio station, and they're just getting callers.
Right, and they could be communicating, and there'd just be people telling stories. It could have easily been that, but I appreciated that it was very visual, because the visuals were beautiful.
Yeah, this movie is really well shot.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, even though it's indie, I know reading about it, they really paid attention to the detail. Like the basketball court was repainted to reflect how basketball was played during that time, because the rules have changed since.
Yeah.
The switchboard was a working switchboard where like they could call in. And so she could, because there's that one where she's just at the switchboard. There's a lot of those where it's just
there are a lot of long takes in this movie.
But they're like with the exception of that one, they're very Spielberg because they're more shot for efficiency than they are. Not even Spielberg. They're just very actual old timey. They're 50s oneers where it's like, yeah, they're just staying on this character because what's the need? Why cut? You know.
Yeah.
And because of that, you mentioned at the beginning, the performances are fucking... I love them.
Yeah, I really like these two actors.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
That opening scene, I read a review about this movie before I saw it, and I have to agree with it, is that they talked about the lingo. Mm-hmm. The lingo feels authentic without feeling like it's, like someone who's just like doing a stereotype of 50s talking.
Yeah.
Like they talk with 50s slang, but they use slang that I haven't heard as much, and it's very natural with these actors.
Yeah.
They're delivering lines that are very like it's not the way people speak.
Not anymore.
No, I don't even think in the 50s, because it's very there's a lot of like back and forth like exchanges. Like I don't want to use Tarantino or Kevin Smith.
No, because it's not like that.
It's not like that. It's not heavy-handed, but it is sort of like elaborate. It's a lot of witty back and forth.
Yeah, it's not even that it's witty. It's just very quick, and I don't know. It has a real rhythm to it.
Yeah, it's sharp, and again, not in a way that it's like you. I noticed it, but only in the sense that I really liked it. And that they were performing it very well.
Right. I would say, and this isn't an exact comparison by any means. It's just to give people a better idea if you're listening to this without having seen it. It's closer to Coen Brothers than Kevin Smith or Tarantino.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because the beginning sequence is it also does a really good job at establishing who these characters are, and that's without giving them. They don't have that much of an arc.
No, they don't really have. They don't.
But we know who they are, and we like them, and we want them to be all right.
Yeah.
And they do things like at the beginning, his name is Everett, right?
Yeah, Everett is the DJ,
and Faye.
Yeah.
Everett is walking around. We start at the high school, and he's kind of walking around solving problems and being very aggressive, but it's very likable.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of some of the scenes in Hail Caesar.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that a bit, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where it's just he's like cruising, and like they're having an electricity problem, and because he's at the radio, he shows up to like help them set up the recording for the game, because they record the guys to play it on the radio the next day, because people like to listen to the local basketball game on the radio. But they called him there for an electricity problem. That it turns out they weren't actually asking for him. They like confused him with somebody else,
like Emmett or something.
Yeah, Emmett, who is an electrician.
That woman, by the way, she was talking about the squirrels, and
yeah,
she was fucking killing it.
She was great. Everybody was really good.
Very Coen Brothers. Yeah, everybody is terrific.
The repetition of the squirrel story, was very Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
He takes that one guy's trombone and locks it in the locker.
That was great.
It's like, Rennie needs his trombone back. Yeah, I know. Why are you taking Rennie's trombone? To punish him for being Rennie.
Yeah. It was terrific.
Yeah, just no reason.
They also seemingly foreshadow something that never actually happens, because they talk about when you record on those old tapes too much, you can hear echoes of the previous recording. Mm-hmm. And the guy mentions it. And I thought that was going to come up, because later they have to go get tapes. Yeah. But they didn't. I think they were just sort of establishing the technology of the time. I don't know. Yeah. I think it was just a little flavor. Yeah. Well, that was the thing. It's not a complaint. I loved it all. I loved. Mm-hmm. He meets up with Faye, and then she has a new tape recorder, so he's helping her just for fun interview people. or herself, and just to break in the tape recorder, just to learn it.
So he's showing her how to use it while he's walking her to her after school job.
Yeah. So we're getting a lot of those characters from it because in a lot of the townspeople who ultimately also don't play into it that much.
No.
It's sort of just to establish that this is a very tight-knit town.
Yeah, where you can just walk up to people and be like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and then be like, hey, Faye here's got a new tape recorder. She's going to ask you some questions, and they're all very agreeable, and everybody knows everybody. And
it's very wholesome. It's very Pleasantville. And so then he sort of interviews her, and she's like, oh, I guess I'll talk about this stuff I read in these magazines. And she just calls her shots really well. It's basically her mentioning articles in magazines that foreshadow things that we definitely have or are talking about now. She mentions the hyper tube or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Hyperloop. The Hyperloop. Self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars and cell phones.
And cell phones, yeah.
Smartphones, specifically.
Yeah, specifically smartphones.
And I want to look up the magazines because he acts incredulous, and I feel like they're doing that because the audience would be incredulous because he's like, is that really a thing they talked about? And she's like, no, it's in this magazine, this date. It came out this year. Like, they very much cite the magazines.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to look them up now to see if they were like being like, no, for real.
If those were actual articles.
Yeah, we were talking about this shit.
Yeah, the science magazines of the time were making in the 50s, were definitely making wild predictions about what we would be doing by the year 1990 or the year 2000. Yeah, they were definitely doing that. Like, we're all supposed to be living in cities above the clouds with flying cars by the year 2000.
Yeah. We didn't quite make it.
No.
But, we'll get there.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, no, just, all we need is a cannon.
Just need a cannon.
Yeah.
Shit, where was I going with this? But yeah, they establish their characters really well. I love that Faye keeps running places, even though they've stolen a car, and Emmett keeps having to drive by and pick her up. She's very her character is very action oriented. There's still 50s dynamics, it feels like, where the guy is sort of in charge. They deal with race. Yeah,
to the first point, he's also older.
Right, that's true.
Like, I think he's still a teenager, but he's technically an adult because he's clearly not in high school anymore and he has a job.
It's a very mentor relationship he has with her.
Yeah.
But she doesn't seem like that less knowledgeable than him, I guess.
No. I don't think there's that many years between them, but
yeah.
I think she also runs everywhere. Like, she says something about, well, I'm just used to running everywhere. I don't have a car. I don't have a bike, and it's also such a small town that she can conceivably run anywhere she needs to go.
Yeah. It's also it's not like their relationship is not one person more dominant than the other. There's definitely just a dynamic there in their relationship that's really well established between them.
Yeah, you mentioned that she's action oriented and he is more passive.
Yeah.
Like, he sort of has to be prodded into acting.
Right, and she has to kind of scream at him and be and be like, we're doing this. And so it's really well done that way. And her giving him crap about his radio voice. There's also an amount of not sort of fakeness to him or fake authority that she calls out, and he clearly hates it. I think the purpose of all this, to me, is they're establishing a relationship that you can kind of see romantically. You can kind of see these people because, again, they're not much far different ages from each other. You're kind of looking at what could be the start of a marriage of a old man and old woman talking about how they met.
Yeah. And they hint at that. It's nothing romantic ever happens between them, but they do hint at it because I think at least one, I feel like it happens more than once, but Faye runs in someplace and she's like, oh, Everett drove me here. And they'll be like, oh, the cute radio boy. Like, they'll kind of one of them she'll be like, stop smiling. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Her mom
sister,
does it too.
Her mom,
yeah. When she first shows up at the switchboard, she mentions that she got dropped off by Everett, and her mom kind of gives one of those mom smiles, like, oh, that nice boy.
Right.
So,
but they're very like it's the sort of thing where the movie wants you kind of rooting for them because the other people are, and they have a lot of charisma together.
yes,
They seem to call out each other's bullshit. They
Yeah.
seem to respect each other. It's not perfect, but it's like it's like just feels like a very wholesome-esque relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, okay, spoilers for the end, they end up getting abducted, and
Yeah.
we never see them again.
Yep. They get abducted as a family unit, though.
Exactly, and that's what it comes to, is that they then have the kid, they
Yep.
run into the field, and then they get abducted, all three of them, those two and the kid. So it feels like it's saying something about that.
Yeah. I don't know what. But
I don't know what either. Maybe I have to watch it again.
It's sinister because it's freaking aliens stealing them.
Right, and it's the idea of like they want you to like see these two, and you root for them, and you kind of like the maybe there's a romance here, or maybe not. They never. It's not heavy-handed, and then it's just their lives are cut. They talk about their futures, where they're going to go to school, or what jobs they're going to get.
Well, he talks about he's probably going to go to the West Coast, and she's like, "Yeah, I kind of want to get out of here too. I don't I could go somewhere." And then he starts talking to her. Well, what about college? And she's like, "Well, I can't afford college." And he's like, "Well, maybe you could look into loans." Like they have a back and forth conversation about what they're going to do once they finally get out of this small town.
Right, and then it's just all abruptly cut short at the end.
Yep.
Because they're both abducted, and then we don't know what happens after that. Because it's I think it really is like this, as established by the framing device of like the Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. It kind of is just a long episode of an anthology series, of a sci-fi anthology.
Yeah.
In that it almost doesn't need to be a full-length feature because the plot is very like Twilight Zone-y. As opposed to like a very clear beginning, middle, and end arc and a resolution. Like this could be the first episode of a TV show more than a movie. If this was the first episode of a TV show, I think it would be fucking amazing. Or an anthology show.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a standalone movie frustrates me a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, expound on that, and then once you're done, I want to come back around to talk about how they address race.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to talk about that.
I want to talk about that, yeah.
Because the 50s stuff, it's like we keep saying it's wholesome and Pleasantville-esque, but there's still like otherism in there, and they seem to recognize it. But what I'm saying is that because there's no definite conclusion, and because the plot seems like pretty thin,
yeah.
It feels more like a really good first episode of a TV show, like a sci-fi anthology show or a show about this town. Like I could, like I think I really like this movie, but I would have liked it more if I knew that there would be more of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there's not much to it.
Yeah, like a Stranger Things-esque show. Like this should be, someone should look at this movie, hire these people to then make a TV show.
Oh, somebody should hire these people. Yeah, I want to see what they do with money.
Right, but I want to see what they do with this same world.
Sure,
this same aesthetic, the same universe too. But yes, I definitely want to see what these people do with more money. Not much more. It doesn't have to be that much more.
No, yeah, just give them like $10 million.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the how they address race in the movie, which I think it's an all white. I think we only see white people.
Yeah.
Except on the opposing basketball team, as the girl points out, she says.
They're Indians.
Yeah, a couple of Indians on their team, which she, of course, means Native Americans. But
right.
And it's like that's pretty early, and that's definitely addressing. Not even really addressing, just deciding not to ignore it, which was,
Yeah, you get. No one is blatantly racist, but they're not racist.
Right, because
you're like, these people are probably very racist.
Oh yeah,
if we pressed them on it,
for sure. Because the way Faye tells her mom about the kids on the other basketball team implies that Native Americans have an inherent athletic ability.
Yes.
Which is...
they don't. It's like one of those things where like the movie isn't about that. But it also can't ignore it. So when it does come
takes place in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly. Again,
everybody was at least a little racist.
Yeah, like I think Everett and Faye's relationship is similar because there's like a little bit of misogyny in there.
A little bit.
But it's not overdone because it's also not too much about that.
I felt it more like because in the first. And it clearly becomes obvious that that's not the case. And that would definitely color what we previously talked about the possibility of them having a romantic relationship in the future.
Right.
But in the first 10 minutes or so, I wasn't sure if she was his kid's sister, because that's kind of the tone he has with her.
Yeah, he talks down to her a lot.
He does, yeah. And I got, but you're right that it absolutely, there's a misogynistic element to it. But as I was watching it, it felt like an older teen talking to a younger teen, being like, "Hey, kid, you don't know nothing yet, so I'm gonna tell you how it is." Right,
and it feels like a little bit part of their progression is that then she ends up ordering him around, too.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like he wants this front. I think again when that's the point of when she's like, "Why does your radio voice sound different than your regular voice?" And he gets really flustered because it's that she's like taking him down a peg, like from his beginning, because he becomes just as helpless as her.
Right. He's so particularly in the opening scene where it's really just we're following him.
Yeah.
Through the gym into solving the problem, picking her up, walking her back home. It's always following, and he's usually in the center of the shot.
Yeah.
And he has such swagger in those opening scenes. And then by the end of when she really chops his legs out with that radio voice, which is a thing. Like broadcasters frequently take dialect classes.
Sure, yeah.
So to either lessen your accent or affect a more neutral accent.
Oh yeah, we're both Southern. People don't know this about us. Thick Southern accents.
Well, I was born in Virginia. So.
Oh, sorry. I mean, yeah, the accent wise.
Oh, right.
Just thick Southern drawls is what we both have.
Impenetrable. I actually have a very thick Cajun accent.
Yeah.
It was really bizarre that I was the only one in Virginia who spoke like that.
Mm-hmm. Just straight up John Voight and Anaconda.
That accent is madness. I don't know.
Perfect Cajun accent.
He's just
John
doing
Voight.
Scarface.
Yeah.
In Anaconda. He's doing a weird mix between Scarface and Marlon Brando.
Yeah, he's doing his own thing.
It's just madness.
He's over there having fun.
Yeah.
No one can tell him what to do. So what were we talking about?
We were talking about the race component.
Yes.
Which comes up again more pointedly when they get the caller, Billy, who calls in after Everett plays the transmission that they received over the radio, and it says, if anybody knows what this is, call in. And then they get this guy who calls in, and he says, I'm this Air Force or Army veteran. He's an elderly military veteran, and he tells them a story about how he participated in this weird, in the middle of the night, some Air Force officers showed up and made him go out with a bunch of other guys and dig this giant hole and basically build a bunker that they put this huge thing in that he never quite got a look at because it was covered, but he said it was at least the size of an airplane, right?
Yeah. He said it was bigger.
Yeah, that's right. He said it was bigger than an airplane. And that he heard that transmission as they were taking off from the place where they had built it. And he said as they were taking off, he could look down and see that they were already covering over the runway so that nobody would ever know there was anything there.
Right, and part of what he was talking about is that they almost formed a community of these guys telling each other their pieces of the story because they realized that each person was only getting one job and one piece so that nobody knew too much.
Right, one guy saw the object being carried on a barge down the Colorado River.
Yeah.
And the guy also says that he got radiation sickness.
Right, and that other people did too.
Pretty much everybody that worked on it got radiation sickness.
That's also, they ask him, why are you telling us this? And yeah, he's like, because I'm dying.
Because I'm old, I'm sick.
Yeah.
And nobody listens to me. And he's like, well, why doesn't anybody listen to you? And then he says, well, because I'm black.
Right.
And then he's like, he said, I forget what Everett says to him after that, but then the guy says, yeah, no, all of us were either black or Mexican.
Yeah, and he's like, why do you suppose that is? And he's like, because no one would listen to us.
Yeah, he's like, do you think they did that intentionally? He's like, oh, I know they did.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that? Because who's going to listen to us? And also, the subtext is, they all got sick.
Right.
So it's like, well, we'll throw the people of color in there, and nobody cares if they get radiation sickness. Like, that's the implication behind that as well, I thought, anyway.
Yeah, and I think it plays into the whole movie, I guess, is that the first people who were affected by this, were people of color, and now at the end it's this all-American white family type getting abducted. Mm-hmm. Like, that has to play into it, the overall theme. And even Everett's reaction is very telling, because Everett is kind of like, no, it's cool, man. Like, or he asks, like, do you have a problem with this?
He said
that the story's coming from a black man, and he's like, no,
he says something is like, is that going to be a problem? And he's like, no, I don't think it's a problem. But he
looks flustered.
He looks a little flustered, yeah.
Because it's the 50s.
Because it's the 50s.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's almost him realizing, like, this man is right. That's why they did that, probably. Like, it's him kind of being confronted with the racism while still not being fully comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot of that, as Everett has trouble believing the stories as they go. The old woman, he also just he does not believe her.
No, he doesn't. And it's
at the end is him saying they're here, they're really here, because it's he had to see it to finally believe that this thing was happening.
Yeah. And the old lady was creepy, and also, like, when she's like, can you do me a favor, one favor, and she's like, take me with you. She's like, well, where do you want us to take you? To the ship. And she hasn't mentioned a ship or anything up until that point,
right? And
so
it's
it really comes off as, oh, this woman's nuts.
Yeah.
So he's just immediately like, oh, we've got to leave.
Right. And then he like, she gives him the words to say, and he doesn't take them.
He doesn't take them. Nope.
Yeah, it's Everett's whole thing is very interesting, because he starts very much in control, is confronted by a lot of ideas that people have been victimized, and has to see it for himself to actually confront that fact.
Yeah,
fully.
And it's sort of like she's more open. Like, everything she reads in her interview are articles from science magazines. Like, she's more open to the idea, and he's kind of like doesn't believe them.
Yeah,
Like, the one he doesn't believe is the one that actually winds up happening.
Right. Or the one that's the most, because she talks about, self-driving cars and
the
super
Hyperloop.
fast trains.
Yeah.
And those are two things we're still yet to conquer. But the cell phones is the thing we've definitely figured out. And that's the one where he's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's the one I don't buy. And, like, he's adamant that it's the Soviets invading and not aliens. Like, he has a very specific worldview.
Yeah. And I do think there's just underlying themes of that, of, like, denial by, like,
Well, you notice one of the first thing he has her say when she's testing out her recording, she's like, well, I don't know what to say. He has her say the oath that they made people say, that they weren't a part of the Communist Party.
Right. I really like that. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
So it's
because it felt very 50s, because he makes her say, like, something from a TV show or something
Gunsmoke.
as well.
From Gunsmoke.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm choking on water, Tom.
How fucking dare you?
I know. But that was part of the lingo I really liked, because they seem to know it's kind of silly and dumb what they're saying. Mm-hmm. They're not that into it. Like, they felt like teenagers in the lingo.
Yeah.
Like, they felt like everything's stupid and dumb, like teenagers always are. They're not just happy-go-lucky 50s teens.
Yeah.
But they're very much into the pop culture at the time and stuff like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's definitely when he's thinking it's the Soviets. There's Yeah, it's a lot of like denial and
and otherism, like
and
you
otherism,
mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Here's the thing: is picking this apart. I don't know if it's supposed to mean one blatant thing.
I don't think it is.
I think it's just vibes. I think it's just supposed to be themes and vibes.
Right. I think it's just it's telling a typical sci-fi thriller story that would have shown up on The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Although The Twilight Zone was usually way more overtly political with
right.
with its social commentary.
Yeah, and I mean maybe the director will come out and say like, no, this is about climate change or this is about this.
Right.
But it didn't feel like it while watching it. Maybe it went over my head or something. I don't know.
I feel like it's just it's doing. I think it's doing like an homage to those kinds of TV shows and movies, while not ignoring the time in which it took place. I think
the problems. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I don't know
it's
if there's
extending.
Yeah.
The sci-fi of being like, yeah, if the government did this stuff, well, they'll probably get people of color because that's the people they would screw over. So yeah, you're right. I think that I don't. Again, I could be wrong. It may have just soared right over my head like a flying saucer. But I think it's. I know. Yeah, I'm mad at myself for that one. I think it's just it not ignoring that it's in the 50s. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's it's a good retelling of this era because that's one of those things is that like it's easy, I think, for certain people to romanticize the aesthetic or the,
like
the feel or the wholesomeness of the 50s. It's what what made Pleasantville pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Although they didn't need they could have just had them be just regular racists in Pleasantville. That would have been a whole thing. Like if it wasn't like they're turning literal colors, it was just they're a bunch of racists.
Yeah.
Now you're sucked in there. Are you gonna do anything about this? But it's the same thing of that they wanted to do this aesthetic, but they couldn't look away. They couldn't sugarcoat it.
No, I mean you could have. I feel like if a Disney makes a movie that takes place in the 50s, the first thing they would do is be like, let's cut out the race stuff.
Oh yeah,
people don't want to think about that.
This doesn't make it a big part of it.
It's not. It's a very small part.
Yeah, it's not even about that. It's just it's still there, and I appreciated that. Yeah. There's a lot to this film. Again, plot-wise, it's thinner because it's just like this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Movie over. No grand conclusion. No no huge scale stuff, which is what I was looking forward to. I knew it was going to be very small scale. And my main criticism is I think they could have gone smaller scale. I think we didn't need to see, because at the end they look up and we see there's a great fucking moment where they just see the small flying saucer. And it's very quiet, and it's just sort of there in the field, half in the dark, and it's just it's not like making hovering sounds.
It doesn't make any sound at all.
It doesn't make any sound. It's just sort of there, and it's a really creepy shot. But then they look up and they see the larger thing go over them, and that's like a straight up flying saucer, Close Encounters style. And that was where I was like, I don't know if I needed that. I think it maybe just the saucer. I don't think I needed to see the aliens. I'm glad we didn't see an alien.
Yeah, we didn't see any aliens.
Yeah, but the saucers were even too much.
I think yeah. I don't know.
It's not bad, but it was just
no.
I could have used even more mysteriousness there.
I could have used it being more like the fourth kind.
Yeah, make it more like the fourth kind. Fourth kind you never see any. Yeah.
Nope.
Because I think that's what makes aliens intriguing.
Yeah.
I think it's why we are obsessed with them, is that we're the same way we're obsessed with ghosts or demons or anything supernatural, and it is because you only hear stories, you don't see it. It's not. It's always in the shadows. It's the unknown, and so it's like always. I feel like better to keep it unknown. Unless you're doing like E.T. Then I guess you make some dickhead alien
Yeah.
floating around.
Yeah.
This little turd alien.
Put that little wrinkly piece of shit on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
With his little desk lamp
dumb
head.
noises.
That fucking thing.
Fucking gremlin. He's hideous.
Beat the shit out of E.T.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kick him in his weird head.
Yeah. I think I told you this when I was writing for Film School Rejects. They did a company mural with just, and I was like, I had only been, I didn't write for them that much, but they were like, you want to be in this? We want people doing something film related. And I was like, can you have me punching E.T.? And they were like, sure. So like their company mural, there's like me just gut punching E.T.
Punching him so hard he's throwing up.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck him. Fuck E.T.
Fuck E.T. I said it.
Yeah. We were all thinking it. Little fucking shit.
Reminds me of that photoplasty you did.
What?
That's when it's about superheroes being dicks, and it's Superman punches a guy, then he flies around the world to turn back time so that he can watch him punch the guy while eating popcorn.
Yeah. Be a little dickhead Superman.
Oh, I laughed really, really hard at that one.
Yeah. That came out real good. I won the photoplasty.
You did?
that.
Yeah, you won that one.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I got $100 for that.
Oh, yeah.
100 big boys.
Not bad.
Not bad.
That's a one Call of Duty plus a season pass.
That's true. Oh man.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on The Vast of Night?
No, I think people should watch it. It's not going to be for everyone, I don't think, even though it has overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Oh yeah.
But I think it might be too slow for a lot of people.
Yes, I think people won't be able to deny how well done it is and how good the dialogue is, but it might be too slow for some folks. This isn't a horror movie.
No, and not much happens. There's like 3 things that happen.
Yep.
It's mostly people having conversations.
Yes. So I don't know if you're into that. I never got bored, but it's also 90 minutes.
It's even less than that.
Oh wow! Yeah,
it's like 86 or 87.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. Check it out.
Yeah, it's good. And if you already have Amazon Prime, then you don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's just there.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to see what these people do next.
Yeah,
I hope
sure.
they don't. Yeah, I hope they don't drop off the face of the earth. I hope they don't mysteriously vanish.
Or, I don't know, turn into a fucking Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hope they don't get Jurassic World 4 piled on them.
Yeah.
And then get really confident about their abilities. Yeah. Yeah, baby steps. Baby steps. So we have a Patreon.
We do.
Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac. There are also a lot of things to donate to right now.
Oh, yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yep.
So look into that. I should name one of those things. That's what you appropriately do.
Probably should have. God damn it.
Well, I keep looking into them, and they sort of switch around. There's a lot of people who are like, "No, you don't need to donate to us anymore. Donate to them." So I don't know. As hard as it is to look at the news,
just take a look on Twitter. People are sharing all sorts of links that you can donate to.
Yeah. Also, keep your eyes out tomorrow. Tuesday, because there might be something new coming out from us tomorrow.
Might there be?
Might there be? Yeah. There might be a new like a mini series podcast, maybe, perhaps, if you look.
What would it?
I don't know what it would be about, but there could be something.
It might perhaps be about teenage vampires. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But probably it won't be.
No, it probably won't be. It probably won't be 2 hours long. And
definitely some episodes won't be 3 hours long. That's for sure. That's just madness.
Yeah. No, definitely.
That would never happen.
Who would do that?
Who would do that?
Who would do that?
Who would want to do that?
I don't know.
Who would even want that to exist?
It's
I don't know.
grotesque. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. We have a store, but fuck it.
Yeah. Just be safe.
Feels gross doing that today.
Yeah. I hope this has entertained you and gotten your mind briefly off things.
Indeed.
So be safe out there.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, be good.
Yeah. Be excellent to each other.
Yes, be excellent to each other and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. I think that's all. I think that's the vast of this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah,
Bringing it around.
I'm killing it today. These fucking birds are back at the peach tree.